Hey guys, hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Fanatics. This week we have another exciting show ahead for you guys with Alex and Diego obviously joining me, completing the fan squad, and Leighton Bali is also going to be joining us. And then, so guys, for now, please go follow us on our Instagram platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are at. Like, share, and react to all of our comment and leave your thoughts in any of our content that we release on our platforms, and let us know what you guys think about the issues we speak of. First up, we are going to be discussing an incident that occurred in Nyanga and the Guguletu area, where our police minister Becky Chele was hosting and was present at a policing forum where a lot of community members, civil society organizations pitched up and, told Becky Chele that, we have a lot of concerns with regards to how the police and SAPS run things and how crime is still very rampant in our communities. And and what we are going to look at is just a short clip of one of the civil society organizations known as Action Society, Ian Cameron, actually, just voicing some of his concerns regarding policing and the negligence that we obviously experience in this country. So yeah, let's have a quick look at that clip.
James. She was murdered on the 8th of May in Kailicha. She was stabbed 100 meters from where 6 other people were shot 5 minutes earlier. No one followed up that case. We did, because her sister asked us to help. Do you know where we found the suspect? In the Eastern Cape. We brought him back. He is now being detained in Kailicha. We do that because we care for the community. We patrol for them. We give them training. I don't see you doing the same, sir. And I'm tired of the excuses, and I'm tired of you making this a political thing. None of these people tonight, when they see their neighbors being slaughtered on the streets, worry about your nonsense comments about the Constitution and about devolution. They worry about surviving, sir. And I would like to end off with this. I want to graciously invite you to come and patrol without a bodyguard, without a grand car, in normal clothes with this community tonight, to get the sewage on your shoes that they patrol through. You have a problem, Mr. Minister, because you are removed from reality that the rest of us face. When I visit Mbekweni, I get out of my car and a 3-year-old little boy is taking a poo next to the road because he doesn't have a toilet. And you know what? Police don't care if something happens to them there because they don't have the resources to help. When I go to the different gender-based violence desks at these police stations, especially in the Nyanga cluster or traditional Nyanga cluster, the majority of the detectives have more than 300 dockets on their table. 300 dockets! How do you think you can do an investigation with 300 dockets? It's impossible. And then the cherry on top, and this is my conclusion, is that many of those detectives have 300 dockets, and it's a constable detective. He just came out of the college. He doesn't even know how to spell J88. You expect him to solve the problem.
Yeah, no, guys, that's absolutely brilliant. The fan team has taken it upon ourselves to brand Ian Cameron, somebody who features a lot on our quote cards. We've branded him as a badger of liberty because that's exactly what he has done with the police minister, and accusing him of obviously driving around in an impoverished community with his blue light brigade and all of his Mercedes Benzes, and that really triggered Becky Chele. And what we're about to look at next is actually Becky Chele's reaction to this. And I think Diego, once we come after this clip, we're gonna probably come to you definitely, and you're going to see exactly how Becky Chele exposes himself as the little dictator that he actually intends to be. So yeah, let's have a quick watch.
Did not join human rights battles. yesterday. That's why I was sent to prison. That's why I was sent to Robben Island. That's why I lived in the cold water. That's why I ate bad food, because I was fighting for human rights. That's why today we have human rights. Don't teach me about human rights. Don't tell me and tell about the safety of my people. I fought for it. I nearly died for it. I was arrested for it. I was exiled for it. Don't provoke me. Don't talk things that you have studied and you have heard, you have been told about. I've lived this life. I've lived the life of being African. I've lived the life when my mother was called a kitchen girl, when my father was called a garden boy. I've lived that life. And I'm not going to take any nonsense of somebody who regards me as a garden boy today, because you regard me as a garden boy. You come here, shut up! Shut up! Shut up! I sat here, I listened to you. I sat here, I listened to you talking nonsense. Listen, it's your time to listen. Sit down and listen, young man. Or get out! Or get out! Get out!
Sure. We really saw our minister lose his cool right there. That was some real action from Action Society. But yeah, no, absolutely. Diego, can I come straight to you, bruh? You know,
Yeah.
that incident. I mean, we respect anyone who, would have laid their life down to achieve a democratic society. And we obviously respect that absolutely. But when we see nearly 30 years later the conditions that we are living in from these very freedom fighters who were supposed to lead us into whatever prosperity they promised, and we see that they have failed. There are the video pieces now that they claim to have fought during apartheid. And so, what are your thoughts on his reaction to this show?
Well, my thoughts are that Becky Taylor tried emotionally blackmailing Iron, and it didn't work out. I mean, it's something that they do a lot, right? Whenever an issue comes and they are failing at their job, and you ask them questions about their job, they tell you about apartheid, what we did. I almost died in exile at a camp somewhere there in Mozambique and stuff of that nature. But while we think that is important, at this point in time, people are dying. At this point in time, don't have toilets. At this point in time, people are not safe. So what are you doing at this point in time? I mean, your history is interesting, but I personally am not interested in it, at least not at this point in time. At this point in time, we want to know, what are you doing as a minister of the Department of Police at this point in time to ensure that all citizens in the country are well protected and that our security is as tight as it can be. But yeah, they are used to such politics. It's really them, man. But it didn't work this time. And big ups to Ian, really, sure.
Yeah,
Ian, sure.
no, absolutely. No, for sure, Teka. I even agree with you. Alex, what are your thoughts when you saw this? That the situation is currently trending on our social media platforms. The news actually number one on News 24, I saw. What do you think about this, man?
I think that Becky Cele's race card has been denied. But no, I think what this there was an incident a few years ago, you know what I'm saying, a few months ago, where Cyril Ramaphosa, I think he was in the Northwest, addressing a crowd. I think it was a crowd of miners, and he got booed off stage, and he had to be taken off the stage and put into his VIP unit for protection because people were so angry. And it's a very similar thing to what you're seeing here, where somebody who comes with proper, real grievances, speaking on behalf of the community that is being addressed, and the politicians just really can't stand the heat because they're being shown up to be a failure. And the lame clapback of resorting to your struggle credentials is so lame. I mean, you're addressing an audience that lives in a separate a township that exists because of separate development. You don't need to preach to them about what you fought for, what it was like, all this, Garden Boy, all these things. People understand that stuff, but what they also understand is, as Ian points out, is, in a separate video, he speaks about the 50 people in Khayelitsha alone who have died in mass shootings. They don't care about your struggle credentials. You failing them. And I think the reason Ian has captured so much attention is because he really just captured what people think and feel. People don't care about politics. They just want to be safe. And I think this is what happens when someone really feels the heat in a public debate. You can't hide behind, we send, we can send letters to the presidency, submit petitions, and people can hide behind bureaucracy. But when push comes to shove, I think it really reveals people's grievances. And Ian was chucked out of the venue and manhandled, and his jacket was torn. Meanwhile, he's the one on the ground organizing policing forums and training for people to protect themselves. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Chief, that's absolutely fact. He was literally dragged out of the venue by Yatego.
No, I was about to say that I think Beki Kale, if he wants to tell the story of his life, he must go write a book. What we are looking from him as a Minister of Police is a report on what the police are doing, what they have done, how police resources are being used. After all, is our money being spent to handle all these things. So if he wants to tell us the story of his book, he's welcome to approach a publishing company and go write a memoir. Those who are interested will read the book. For us, we want to know how our money's been spent and how our safety has been taken care of.
Yeah, or just how he's going to deal with the stuff that Ian's raised. Yeah, how are you going to deal with just one point? Or what are you going to do about the 300 dockets lying at the police station? Simple.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Ian was calling him out on like the gender-based violence cases, all of that, and his immediate response is, "Why are you calling me a garden boy? Don't treat me like a garden boy." And I'm like, this is what accountability is supposed to look like. We need these people on the ground to actually see the circumstances that's happening, that we experience every day, in our communities where we operate. And that I was like, absolutely was completely impressed by Action Society's Ian Cameron in that situation, and we hope to see more of those occur. And citizens voicing the dissatisfaction. But nonetheless, we're going to continue now to our next article that we're actually going to be discussing. And talking about dissatisfaction and situations affecting South Africa's communities, one of the major issues that we find, especially in our education system, is the degrading and the worsening situation regarding the infrastructure in South African schools. And and in this article, one mentioned that it was mentioned that Equal Education, which is a civil society organization as well who does research, stated that they find it very problematic that government is now proposing to remove deadlines on when schools need to be fixed or upgraded or infrastructure must be improved. And what Equal Education essentially states is that without deadlines that are written and that keep our education department to account, put toilets, degrading classrooms and facilities, and lack of sanitation in our classes and on our schools will actually persist for the next 20 years still to come in South Africa if it is not addressed. Alex, what do you think about a very tough situation that many poor communities face regarding under-resourced schools and dilapidating infrastructure that we see? What are your thoughts surrounding that?
Yeah, it's a concurrent theme. It's in the same in the police story with Ian Cameron and Becky Cele. In this issue, there's no accountability, and literally what the government wants to do here is make themselves devoid of any sort of accountability. That is what they want to do, so that they don't have to actually deliver services. But in the meantime, children will die drowning in pit toilets. Try and say that in a society that is able to provide basic services, and ask them what they think about that as an idea, and the fact that it's merely accepted, and the government now wants to completely void itself of actually ensuring that the most basic piece of infrastructure at a school is provided. We can forget about kudos to the kids who succeed in these kind of conditions, but I think you can forget about building young leaders and a prosperous future for kids who have to learn in these kind of situations. And the only other thing I'd say is, we need to get money out of the hands of politicians. Let's roll out school vouchers.
No, absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that one, Alex. Diego, what do you thoughts? Alex raised an important point there. It's like the basics these people are unable to provide for us, especially with the context that a bathroom, a functioning toilet is a basic something that we need like whenever, or else we will just have the situation of the mess of sewage, and that is not a sustainable environment for anybody to learn in.
Well, my take is quite simple, Sholen, that South African citizens have to do better in 2024. We can no longer continue voting for, at least I think we shouldn't continue voting for people who don't take their duty seriously, who don't take the future of our children seriously, who don't respect the constitution and everything else that is, who don't respect deadlines, who don't respect anything. So I think that come 2024, South African citizens must really go out to participate in elections and vote for a government who they think can deliver better. And if the very government of the day is a government they think can deliver better, then that's good enough. I mean, it's their choice. But for me personally, I think it would be a terrible choice, really. We have now had how much? Over 20 years, and they are failing to eradicate simple pit toilets. What can they get right, really? But yeah, it's up to everyone to vote at the end of the day. But I think voting for a political party that's aligned to the classical liberal school of thought, that's the best thing you could do, and it's much easier to hold such people accountable. That's my general take. I don't think the government of the day takes us or even our issues seriously. This is nonsense in my honest opinion.
Yeah, and just to make it plain and simple, Diego, for our viewers, is that when we say classical liberalism, we just mean that we want a limited government that respects free speech, that respects the free markets, and allows people to actually be able to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, and most importantly, a government that is non-racial. We do not want more quotas, and we do not want a government that's so obsessed with fixing and getting representation right. We just want a government that can get the basics right. And that I don't think is asking for too much. But yeah, nonetheless, guys, thank you for that, for you guys' opinions and so forth. And next up, we are going to be joining our OG and the greatest member of our team, I think. I'm getting brownie points by Mbali right now. We're gonna head over to Mbali, and yeah, we'll see you guys on that.
Thanks for adding me. Hi, guys. Welcome to Burning Questions. Sholan, I cut you off there. I am so sorry.
No problem, fam.
See what happens when you try and be nice, Jordan.
Yeah, exactly,
Bro.
exactly. I should act like
Sorry.
Becky Taylor now. Mbali, don't
Literally.
treat me like a garden boy, please.
He actually, sorry
Count
guys,
Kwana,
he actually
we
went
see
on.
the hair. We
Thank you.
recognize
Yeah,
the hair.
loving it.
Honorable member.
Courtesy of Begitlele and Ian. Yes, they're my blessers. But his actions were so uncalled for, guys. I think he's so dramatic, actually.
Yeah,
Like he was
I
literally running away from being accountable.
No,
Very
it's
No,
crazy.
I think they touched him. It hit him deep. He didn't know how
Yeah.
to react.
Shame.
Yeah, I think
Anyways.
you couldn't argue with him. He couldn't,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
couldn't deal with the substance of his argument. So it was like, okay, just going to default to race and struggle
Dude,
past.
and apartheid
Yeah.
talking about him eating bread food. Like, okay, sir, sorry. Okay, guys, let's go into the code card for this week. And our code card comes from Mr. Ian Cruikshanks, who is a project manager at the Institute of Race Relations. And the code card is very simple and straightforward.
Terence,
And it's-
Mbali?
Terence, what did I say? Ian Corrigan. Straight.
Ian Cruikshanks.
I'm sorry. Did I say Ian Cruikshanks?
Ian was
That
very
is
cool.
he was very cool. Shame. May his soul rest in peace. Shame, man.
Yes.
What's wrong with him? Anyway, Terence Corrigan, who is a project manager at the Institute of Race Relations. And the code card is for a country that is so obsessed with its history, who often know so little about it. And the first comment says, we know our history, we remember and celebrate our history, others don't. Sholan, I don't know, you're the youngest from here. Do you know about South Africa's history through and through?
Yeah, yes. I must say, Terence is someone that I deeply respect because I know the intellectual capacity of this man. So it's very hard to sometimes argue with this, even the statement that he makes. I must say that, yeah, I mean, I have studied political science. I was a history addict on high school as well, and even I still struggle to grasp the historical context of South Africa because so much has occurred in our history as a country, from everything from colonialism, before colonialism, through apartheid, and now we in a democratic society. Like, a lot has happened during that period. So, and as a born free, I think we're all born frees here. I'm not sure about Alex. Alex,
And
don't
Diego.
And Diego,
I
yeah.
am a bomb.
Okay, just checking. Hey, we post 1994 babies here, so yeah, I must say that we do know a lot, and a lot of people tend to make statements of like, yeah, we were so oppressed and so many things, but they do not really understand the context in which South Africa has journeyed through. So yes, I definitely think we do not celebrate it as much, but simply because I think we do not know. That's the reason, at least I think.
That's okay. And this person, Utumisani, says freedom. You wasted our time in it. So maybe people don't celebrate the freedom because, like, what freedom? What are you talking about? You know, maybe that's the other reason for that. And maybe to you, Alex, do you think our education system allows for South African kids to learn about the real South African history? Because I remember learning about Hitler, and I'm like, why should I know about Hitler and his fetish for blue eyes and straight hair? Why? Tell me about Shaka and Dingani. Tell me about those people. You know?
No, for sure. Look. I think one of my regrets is not doing history in school. I did study it at university, but yeah, I mean, I think it's important to learn about global issues such as things like the Holocaust and things. So it's important because it's a world-changing event. There's ideology behind it that is not so different from what was practiced, for example, in South African history, discrimination. And now this is where you get to the crux of the thing, where you have, there used to be the concentration camps in the Holocaust on obviously a huge scale.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that Afrikaners were put into concentration camps by the British. I think it was the early 1900s. I'm not totally sure on the timeline there, but I think the curriculum certainly is the history is written by the winners, right? So I think we might get a slightly warped perception of history, but I think there's always scope for people to learn more. But it doesn't have to come necessarily in the classroom. Like, okay, cool. We had the privilege of opting to study it at university. Like, I mean, I've studied like slavery history from, I don't know, from like the 1500s through to the 1800s, but that was an entire half-year course at university. But the thing is, I think, the way there's so much out there, and if you think in South Africa to go from, there's people, you've got people like Steve Biko, Chris Harney, obviously the struggle, that period. You've then got people like Jan Smuts, DF Milan, these key characters. Then you go back even further before the Union of South Africa. It's just so interesting. But we tend to cherry pick whatever suits our narrative, and I think that's dangerous.
Yes, Charlotte?
Yeah, I was just about to add to what Alex says, is that that's very important. Our history isn't necessarily complicated, but it's more complex is a better word of using it. And we must be careful of who we lend our ear to when it comes to who those people are who are telling the story of our history. Because there are some people that are still trying to, correct some grievances that with South Africa's historical context. So it's important that we listen to objective and not storylines from people who are very sus. So we must be careful.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And then the next comment is from Stanley, and his response is, yes, it's possible for us to know so little because we have fed someone else's history at the 80 stages. How little is little? Who came to Africa and demolished the so-called history? Our history is not all written to books. Obsession, and he puts a thinking emoji. Diego, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it goes back to the point Alex made that regarding history, that there's a lot of history in the world out there, and so it's really a matter of the people in charge of creating the curriculum appreciating the complexity of history and the complexities. But it's important that I don't think it's wrong that we learn someone else's history at early ages. I think it's human history. It's our collective human history. That's how I see the world. And so it's important to learn as much as it is possible. And I think we should try to balance as much as possible. Let's learn history from home. Let's learn history from Asia, Europe, everywhere else in the world. I mean, knowledge can never harm us. Knowing what happened in Germany since the start of the day, knowing what happened in South Africa and Nigeria, it can never kill you. If anything, it will make you more powerful. It's more knowledge. But that's my overall take around the issue.
Okay.
I was about to add, that's a good point. Like, it actually creates empathy between each other. I mean, like, Diego, I might have never lived a day we are in Limpopo, for example, but you can still tell me like the historical context of, how not only the politics, but the traditional tribal history of how things have operated and the competing tribes and cultures in that region, where I could tell you about, why the Cape Flats is actually situated or placed the way it is right now, and actually the history.
Why? That's why.
Because
I'm interested. I'm interested in that.
I think we should actually do an entire episode on that subject. Especially we're going to delve into the history, because a lot of it comes from not only, especially like the present day colored communities. You actually see that it's not just colored people, but it's actually that there's so many tribes, as you would call it, because there's the Khoisan, there's actually people from like the Cape Malaysian, from Cape Malay, like people that come from Malaysia, Indonesia, who actually shipped here to Cape Town, brought on slave ships, and they were just designated as, oh no, you guys are all colored, mixed breed individuals. But there's so much rich culture and history that actually takes place in our part of the country again. And I mean, South Africa is a large country. We have so much vibrance and diversity happening in this country. We should celebrate it.
And ultimately, I think that's a story of humanity. It's really the history of human beings, our collective story. Sure.
Definitely. Guys, thank you for those 5 minutes chit chat. Liked it. Short, nice, simple. And I hope you at home enjoyed this segment of Burning Questions. And do remember to follow us on every social media at Pleasure of Liberty. And yeah, man, hope you guys enjoy this content. Do interact. Burning Questions definitely is a show where we respond to your comments. And yeah, man, be spicy. Don't be scared. Guys, thank you so much. Same time, same place next week.
Freedom.